restaurant revolution. 30 years that changed American cuisine.
Knife is my most recent restaurant here in the Highland Hotel in Dallas. We try to put a little chef-driven verve into the steakhouse in the sense that we're doing all different types of techniques with meat.
In one of the most beef-centric cities, Knife is the steakhouse of the future. The reason why? John Tesar.
We're dry aging meat for 240 days. We're developing white mold. We have dishes like bone marrow and uni and caviar together, and blood sausage with uni and surf and turfs that are bizarre. And it's just an angle of like being different, but bringing real quality. Because I've been to a lot of steakhouses, and the meat was just kind of and the scenario was like old and staid and boring. It's endless now. There's nothing that can't be done.
John Tesar is making his third appearance on the ESQUIRE list, this time for modernizing the idea of a traditional Texas steakhouse. He followed the bad boy footsteps laid down by Waxman and paves his own way wherever he puts on a chef coat. He's one of the most controversial chefs working today. You don't want this guy as your enemy.
Knife was reviewed by the Dallas Morning News. So we have one person with an axe to grind, does a hatchet job on me, personally. You don't take things personally as a journalist, right? I mean, that's what you do. You write stories, you tell the truth. You're not a fiction writer, you're a journalist, right? This restaurant's working. It's working because the food's good, my staff's good, and the people love it. I'd written this scathing Facebook post at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, okay, this will do. You, Leslie Brenner. Your reviews are self-serving and confusing. You're destroying the star system, and you suck.
John has a reputation for being very controversial. You know, he says what he thinks, and sometimes it gets him in trouble. He goes after reviewers. I don't know if that's a smart thing to do. You kind of have to admire a guy who doesn't care about who he's going to piss off.
It's a large part of me of fighting for what you think is right, and I come out of that New York City, Kennedy Democrat, 70s Vietnam War, the man kind of. That's how I was raised. I grew up in New York City. My parents had such a strict upbringing, that Eastern European, like I had to be in the house at 9 o'clock, right? So when they finally let me out of the house, it was like letting the Tasmanian devil loose. My parents had a beach house in the Hamptons. I think it's 1979. I'm 18 years old. I'm working at Club Pierre in West Hampton Beach, and it was constantly filled with high fashion, New York City, Wall Street, Hollywood lifestyle. And I was the cook, you know? It was like, what better place to be? Because everyone was coming to me like, love the meal, you know, Pierre was the chef, but I did all the work. So with that privilege, I met just about everybody in New York City. I would go to Studio 54, the line would be around the block, and there would be people dressed to the nines. I'd come in with blue jeans and a t-shirt, and the doormen knew me, and the rope would come up, and I'd go into Studio 54, and it was just an amazing world. You're in this nightclub environment, and it's like it's thumping, and the lights are twirling, and I'm high on blow out of my mind. The most incredible night is Andy Warhol hit on me. So I don't even know what to say at this moment, because it's just one of those things on your bucket list, get hit on by Andy Warhol. I'm like, can I get a painting or something, you know?
The 80s ushered in an excessive lifestyle that chefs were quick to embrace.
And then we went into the Wall Street era, and that was an incredible time because the money was raining from the sky. People were dropping Quaaludes and snorting cocaine like it was going out of style, and they were also in restaurants spending thousands of dollars.
I mean, Bonfire of the Vanities, you know, cocaine, champagne, fueled Mercedes tearing around the block. You know, how to spend as much money as fast as possible. When you work 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week, the little time you are away, you play very hard.
I remember with Jonathan, we used to go to Studio 54 until 4 in the morning. I had enough vodka. I probably didn't see straight. I felt like the room was moving. And I had to be at Good Morning America at 6.
To do pasta is really simple. It's all there is egg, flour, salt, and a little bit of olive oil.
Occasionally, Jonathan would call for a staff meeting in the walk-in.
Refrigerators and cocaine, really bad idea. You know, it kind of melts in there.
To get energized for the second rush.
Back in the day of farming some cocaine, that wasn't a bad thing to have.
People were going to the toilet, say 5 people coming out of the restrooms because they were doing drugs at that time.
I was 33 years old, and I was on top of the world. And I opened up different restaurants, and I still have my Ferrari, and I would jet over to London or Paris for the weekend on a regular basis, because I could, and I did. You know, it was a whole different lifestyle.
Then, on October 19th, the bubble bursts, and investors sink the Dow Jones 508 points in frenzied selling. The plunge is the worst in Wall Street history.
And the crash happened, and you know, I was taken by surprise. And I think that hubris captured me in some ways, that I thought I couldn't do anything wrong. It kind of just pulled the bottom out of my business, everybody's business.
Emotionally, I wasn't prepared to deal with all of that fast lane life. I went bankrupt, had a terrible divorce. My father-in-law sued me. I got evicted from my apartment. My daughter still doesn't speak to me from that time. I lost everything.
You know, the party's over. I mean, the party was over. And you start to realize that you got to take care of a business, and that means that all had to change. And I think that the restaurants themselves had to start growing up. And if you didn't, you weren't around.
In some ways, it was depressing. In some ways, really cathartic. But it also allowed me the ability to realize that I could reinvent myself. And, hello, you know?
One night, I just said to myself, I can't smoke pot anymore, and I definitely can't do cocaine anymore. And my life changed. And sure enough, one day the phone rings. How would you like to replace Dean Ferring at the mansion on Turtle Creek? And I'd never been to Texas, ever, ever, ever. But I knew who Dean was. He's the godfather of Southwestern food. Dean can burn toast, and then go to your table in 15 minutes. You don't even remember that you just ate burnt toast. So I get down here, and I have the job of reinventing an iconic hotel and replace the biggest personality in the region. I went in there with a passion and an integrity to make it one of the best rated restaurants in Dallas, and we did. We got every accolade. I got every star back. In 2008, I made the ESQUIRE list with the mansion. I put the mansion back on the map. They gave me carte blanche. I was to hang out in that barn. I was allowed to drink. I was allowed to do whatever I wanted to do. However, HR and the people that have been there for 25 years resented that quite a bit. People had thrown me under the bus. It said on the cover of D magazine, the most hated chef in Dallas. They said, I threw cutlery, I slept with socialites, I drank while I worked. Hell yeah, I did all those things. I didn't throw the cutlery, though. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You know, you have to realize that this business is fickle, you know, which is what led me to be wiser in my decision-making. So I packed my bags, I walked away from it. I had to reinvent myself once again. I decided to open a seafood restaurant in the land where there isn't water for like 100 miles around here, and it was a gamble. So it was either this was gonna make it in Dallas, or I was gonna be gone from here forever. And luckily, I can't tell you how, I just went into the kitchen, and I put my head down and worked. Spoon Bar and Kitchen became one of the most popular restaurants in the country. And now Knife is just like, it's just putting it all over the top. And now I have 2 great restaurants, you know, both of which have been on Esquire's Best New Restaurant list back to back. I don't know who's ever done that. Has Wolfgang done that? I don't know, maybe.
Coming up on Restaurant Revolution.